So welcome everyone. My name is Jeannine Falino, and I'm on the board of the Society of Arts and Crafts in Boston. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Society, we're the oldest craft organization in the country. We were founded in 1897, and we'll soon be celebrating our 125th anniversary. Our mission is to support and celebrate a broad spectrum of makers around the country who work in craft media. And our vision is to build and strengthen our community, especially now during the pandemic. In addition to being on the board, I'm an independent curator, and recently I've had the pleasure of working with the iconic Baltimore jeweler, Betty Cooke. And we have done a retrospective exhibition together called The Circle and the Line, the Jewelry of Betty Cooke. It was planned to open at the Walters Art Museum this fall. However, thanks to the pandemic, it's now been rescheduled for next year. And we've also produced a handsome catalog that is already available online. There are 160 objects in the exhibition and the catalog. And with a career as long as Betty's, it was very hard to make our choices, as you might imagine. So we're really fortunate to have Betty here with us today. She studied at the Maryland Institute, known today as the Maryland Institute College of Art, or MICA. And right after graduation in '47, which was 73 years ago, she opened her very first shop. And she became a nationally known artist thanks to her participation in the landmark exhibition called Modern Jewelry Under $50 that was held at the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis. Since then, Betty's continued to design new jewelry, growing and changing even as she remains faithful to her original design principles that are focused around two primary compositional elements, the circle and the line. Since 1965, Betty's been located at the village of Cross Keys in Baltimore, and her shop is known as The Store Limited. She sells home accessories, clothing, and of course her own jewelry, all premised on good design. Since it's the Christmas season, Betty, we're really grateful that you can take time to be with us today. How are you doing? How are you managing there?
I'm managing like you have to manage. You just do it. It's a very busy season, and it's a wonderful season.
And people are coming in. Are you receiving many visitors?
Yes, we're doing it properly, safely, and there's not that kind of traffic we have to worry about. But people are excited to be out, and they're very glad to come in and buy, especially at Christmas.
Yes, and I'll bet
they can get out and see things that are beautiful.
Yes, and you're a real destination point.
We are, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You want to tell everybody the sort of things that can be found at the store?
Well, when we started the store, we called it the Store Limited, so we can carry anything we want. Because at that time, it was new to us, and we weren't sure what direction we were going to go, except we knew it was going to be toward design, a good design store at the time, we thought. And so we had housewares, and we had wonderful gourmet things, and we had Maramecca fabric and clothes, which was an important design concept back in the 60s.
And let me point out, you have a Maramecca curtain hanging behind you, right?
It's a big, strong one. Yes.
Yes, it is. That looks great. Yes, there.
I believe in that kind of, strength and design. And we have toys. We call it a store, so it has almost everything other than food and that kind of thing. But everything that we think is good, whether it's old or whether it's primitive or whether it's right off the press, whatever is our concept of a design store.
Yeah, I know I've been there many times, and I've been a patron, I have to confess, and I never tire of looking at the new things we found.
A lot of the pieces are handmade, and a lot of them are produced around the world. And it changes as the climates change and the center changes and the world changes, this changes too. The direction might be a little different from year to year. And of course, I carry the jewelry.
Right, only yours. And so why don't you tell us, I just love hearing your story about how you landed your jewelry at the Walker Art Center way back in the 40s. You're traveling.
40s, I think, or 40s. Well, formerly I had a little tiny office and showroom, and I lived in on Tyson Street. And I was going to take a trip with my friend to California. So I thought, on the way, why don't I find all these wonderful stores I've been seeing about, mainly furniture stores that carried contemporary furniture and contemporary fabrics. And this was, as I call it, the design revolution in the United States. So there were a specific kind of store that was well known. So I made a point of tracking down each one of these stores, thinking they might carry jewelry, which too many of them did not, because jewelry and furniture is a different thing. But anyhow, so I stopped by the Walker Art Center, and I've been getting their brochures ever since I think they started. And I just walked in. I had a box of my jewelry, a handmade box that we have, and of my jewelry. And so I walked in, and there was a director of the museum. And I showed them my jewelry, and they said, well, we happen to be doing a show on modern jewelry. And at that point, they selected a group of my things, like all these vines and soaked them and did all kinds of things like that.
Wow.
And, so it's just, and also for some reason, I had it in my mind that I had to get a degree. And I don't know, nobody told me I had to, but I knew I wanted to go to college and get a degree in some sort and make things. So that's how it was.
Yep. And you got to work right away, and then you bought your house like within a year or so of this. It seems like you were already an owner. You ran your own gallery, you had your own shop, and you had your own residence.
It was very tiny and very simple. And I guess that's what people liked about it. You know, it was all a personal thing.
Yeah. But it enabled you to do exactly what you wanted.
Definitely. And there was no question. It's interesting then, because there was no question about whether you're a man or a woman or a young kid. You just did what you do. And you weren't worried about, well, we didn't know all this. You didn't know about the big discrepancy in wages and so forth, because I and other people like me just went ahead and did what you did and found your own way. It was
Love it.
easy. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but I was young and it was easy.
Sometimes when you're young, you don't know how tough it is. You just get down and do it.
It wasn't tough. It was all exciting, you know, just one step after the other.
Right. Good. So I just wanted to share with everybody what our new catalog looks like. Okay. And I have this great shot that someone sent to me of you in the store holding the catalog. I'm still waiting for my copy, but I know you're happy to have one at the store now.
Yeah, but the customers want it. They're getting it on Amazon.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so our viewers can get it on Amazon too if they want.
Yes, but I think I should have it in the store.
I agree.
But anyhow, but that's something else. That's all right.
And I like this view of your store because it also has this jewelry cabinet that you designed back in the 60s.
Right.
And it's still as good as the day it was made. It's very, very efficient. Allows you to walk all the way around it. You can feature pieces on the top, and then you have secure storage below.
We designed all the fixtures in the store, and these were very new back then. I mean, pure white fixtures and cubes. It's very,
and a lot of the design is really based on a kind of a schematic cube kind of organization, right?
Yeah, is that a small? Yeah, try that.
Okay.
And another historic photo that I dearly love.
It's another era. That's on Tyson Street. A little hammer and a little steel block.
Yep.
And there was a big workbench in there, and of course a drill press, and not much else except soldering equipment.
Well, you know, a jeweler doesn't need a whole lot more than that, really. I mean, to get going. You can always get fancy equipment later.
It depends. I mean, if they get into engraving or embossing or casting.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's a fun picture.
And I like the way you're obviously planning something out with these V-shaped pieces.
Right, right.
So what do you think that was intended as? Were they going to be part of
Oh,
a
yeah,
necklace?
Yeah, that was a pin and a different pin. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So those are kind of your boomerang type things.
I used a lot. Mhm. I just like the way when you forge it, it goes from thick to thin and up and down. I
Hmm.
like the planes that it makes follows.
Yeah.
So.
And then you embarked on this wonderful series of birds, shorebirds and animals and owls and such. And I love these because they're none of them are much bigger than a quarter in dimension. And they have so much personality.
There are things you do for fun, and well, you do a lot of it for fun, but I mean, it's a whimsical part of the jewelry I was making. Some was very architectural and clear cut, and then the funny little birds in between. And people like them. I mean, they saw something in each one. And some people knew birds and said, "Oh, that's a curlew," and "Oh, that's a shorebird."
Yeah.
And they were just made out of pieces, so they came out. Each one was different.
And you were working in 2D at the same time. I mean, you were doing lots of watercolors and paintings at the same period.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I was teaching.
And teaching.
But just one day a week. It was a part-time.
And what were you teaching?
It was at Micah. I was teaching design and materials, because it would be something maybe combining leather and metal.
Uh-huh.
And for a while, I did quite a few pieces of jewelry in leather. I have no record of them, but sounds bad, but it was good. And the course was to basically metal, but then incorporate wood and plastic and other materials.
Right, which you did also in your own work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like with this silver ring on the left.
Uh-huh.
I think this is a piece of onyx, but I know you also have used
It might be wood. It might be ebony.
Some of them are, yes, some are ebony as well.
Ebony.
Right.
And I can't see the one on the right. Oh, that's all metal. That's silver and gold.
Yes.
So maybe it might be all gold.
Right. I love the way the circle can be very flat, almost, two-dimensional, like on the left.
Sure.
And then when you sort of deploy it almost like a fan with all these different discs coming in different directions.
Well, it's a small hand that covers two fingers. So, but I've made it different, different proportions.
That's quite a cocktail ring. They both are, quite frankly.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's really an important ring, I think. Well, both of them. But I've never. No, that's all right.
Well, looking at these, it also makes me think of what you made in your early comments when we started working together about how you compose objects, and it became the title for our show. Mm-hmm. You said, when you were teaching at Micah, we used to study what can be done with one straight line. I can spend years with a circle. If you have the ideas and the materials, the results are limitless.
That's true. I mean, I was trying to simplify the whole process, but if you start with a line and a circle, or you can start with anything else, somebody might start with a squash or, splash, but if you select something that you are interested in and create all different ways of using it in different proportions, you can go a long way. So,
to me, it's like your whole career has been kind of like an improvisational riffing on those two things, the line and the circle, because the possibilities really are unlimited.
Well, I hear that because you're saying it, but I believe in other things too. other than circles and lines. Just to show
There
things.
are a few others. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Mhm. I mean, there
That's
could
true.
be irregular shapes and there can be spontaneous wire twisting and all kinds of things. But these are, I mean, these two are, in my mind, good rings.
Absolutely. So here's two other early pieces.
Okay.
And I do love the fact that you have this interest in kinetic aspects of jewelry. And the piece on the left moves a little bit, it sort of pivots. But if you open the pin stem, you can spin the elements around, right?
Right. So it could be all black or all silver or alternate in different ways.
Right, depending on your
Right.
mood.
And that's plastic. That's plexiglass. That was new then when plexiglass came out. So we could adhere it to the metal and it was just a new material. But I usually had a matte finish because I didn't want it to be shiny and gaudy. I thought
Yeah.
so these are subtle matte finishes on here.
Yeah, I mean, it actually gives you a natural finish, like as if it were ebony even.
Well, it's if it were ebony, it would be fine, except in this case, plastic was better. It was new, and I just thought the points would hold up better. See, there were very thin pieces up there.
Mhm.
Fine
Right.
points, and somebody
Right.
dropped it, they might break.
Right, could splinter. Yeah,
Please.
absolutely. And I mean, you used a lot of unconventional materials when you first started out, especially. I mean, aside from the wood, you were using stone, pebbles.
Yeah, that's true. Anything, pieces of rock, and that's about all there is when you think about it. There's wood and there's plastic, and there are fibers, which I didn't use.
Right.
And of course, any kind of stone and many kinds of metal. I used a lot of brass and copper in it.
That's right.
Because it didn't cost anything.
Well, and that was also, wasn't that the aesthetic of the time? That you knew that if you were really in the world of design, it wasn't about big expensive stones like Tiffany and Company was selling. It was really about the quality of the design that came first.
That's true. It's whatever it should be.
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of reasons on all these. I mean, the color of the material and how it. But that's true. So much can be done with almost, what am I trying to say? Like in a class, you just give students a piece of whatever, all kinds of things, and see what they can do with it. And it just stirs the mind a little bit and opens things up, possibilities. Sometimes you think of things you could never do, but at least you thought of them. I mean, they'd be too grand for you to think to construct, but jewelry, you can handle it. Like a lot of this could be sculpture in my mind if it was on a whole different scale and a different purpose.
Yep.
It would have to be more functional and have all kinds of other qualities.
Absolutely. And then on the right, we have this wonderful early neck piece.
Yeah.
And it's an early example of this kind of what I've been calling a gesture, this circular motion that is open-ended. And here it's pretty tight, but as years go on, it sort of loosens and becomes really sort of open and free. How did you come up with this design?
It's how I come up with it. The idea of, well, you put something around your neck and there's such obvious lines that follow your neck. And yet they're secure up in the end, so it's kind of a free. I like it. I like anything that looks like it's free.
Yeah.
It's floating out. It's just not all cramped and tied in.
Yeah.
And that was an early necklace, and a lot of people. I mean, I did quite a few of them.
I think it's one of your
smaller and longer, but I mean, I was pleased with that. Well, I used to go around with big coils of metal around my neck, anyhow. This was a subtle variation of that. Yeah, and it worked. I mean, it's flexible. Okay, here we have plastic.
So yeah, so experiments continue with different kinds of materials, and these resin pieces are. I have a special fondness for them.
Mhm.
You made a lot of different colors.
That's what was wonderful. We could mix colors together and everything. And that's it. What's the second one then?
The piece on the right is the chalcedony pin with the arch.
Oh, yes.
Very
Okay.
pale.
But I like the translucency of that.
Mm-hmm.
But here you see the pin, which is okay.
Yeah.
I see some of these I kept, I just didn't sell. Like that was the only one of that one. And ask any artist why they keep a piece of their work. They just have to say because I liked it. But I like all of them. But I guess
Yes.
never made another one, which is okay.
Well, that's why we're lucky to have it. You know, I think that's also why artists keep their work. They're still thinking about it, maybe still working out still aspects of it.
Maybe you wanted to give it to somebody someday. I don't know. I just thought I didn't want to sell it. Okay.
Let's go on. So then you had this wonderful period in your career of working with Jeffrey Bean, and you approached him at an event. Is that right?
Oh, it was one of his big sales, like in Bergedorf Goodman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I always liked his clothes. I didn't own them, but we weren't in fashion that time. That was before. And so I went up to see what he did because I liked his clothes. And he happened to be there, and I happened to be there. And we were both isolated or something, not with a lot of people. And he said, I like your jewelry. Oh, no, that wasn't it. I said to him, I like your jacket. He had a very spiffy jacket on. He said, oh, thank you. I'm Jeffrey Bean. And he said, I like your jewelry. And I said, oh, well, thank you. I'm Betty Cooke. Of course, he didn't know me, but I knew him. And he was very nice. He asked a lot about the jewelry. And it ended up he liked my whole design concept. And he wanted me to design some pieces for one of the runway shows in Italy. And entirely different kind of jewelry. I mean, I was showing him gold and silver, and he wanted something, more casual. So I got into stones and clusters of stones and natural formations because they would show up on the runway and because it was good. And that's when I did the series for him using there was quartz and several, mainly quartz and some other stones, right. Natural crystals.
Definitely a lot chunkier and intended from the, from a distance, like a model or somebody on the stage.
Mm-hmm. But it worked, and a couple of big pieces of glass at some time, all wrapped in silver with circles from it. They were very interesting pieces.
Nice.
But just for that purpose. And then he wanted to go in business if I would design the jewelry and then it would be his name. And I didn't want to do that. I said, oh, no.
Yeah, I think you're
too. But it was interesting because I enjoyed him, and see, of course, I loved his clothes and it was kind of nice to exchange. We liked each other's things, which was.
Yes, that's a good collaboration for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you were pretty hot in the public eye at that point because you had two awards from De Beers, the Diamonds Today Award, and I'm glad you hung on to this fantastic bracelet with the pebble and the diamond.
Yeah, I mean that was an amazing thing to win an award for De Beers, which is known for big, massive areas of stone and a little bit of platinum, but I reversed this and they took it, and I think that's great. Just a simple beach pebble with gold around it and a little diamond. What could be nicer?
Well, I like it because it's so subversive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. What else do we have? Okay. So now I do love your period where you began to really go in big for stones. And, this is, sort of a reflection of a general culture, more and more people are wearing precious stones, semi-precious stones. But these three are really wonderful. The central one in particular is just so architectural in its design. It seems like it's a giant spring, and it seems so strong.
Uh-huh. Okay. I can't see which one that is.
Well, the central one is the
What is
one with the quartz.
Oh,
And
sure. I see it. I wasn't looking that big. Okay. Oh, I love that. I think that's very nice. If I say so myself. It's just grasping it, like claws or tweezers, just holding it.
yeah, and it's that raw stone is such a great contrast with the smoothness of the metal.
It's not a valuable stone, but it's an interesting ring.
Yeah, well, it's not again, it's not about the value of the stone. It's about the brilliance of the design. And that's the same as the case with the two opals, the piece on the right.
Right.
You find ways to offset these lines in such a way that a simple stone is given a lot more dynamism.
Mm-hmm.
You spend a lot of time playing with stones once you get them to see how they play out in a design.
Sometimes it's a real fast, immediate reaction. You just put it together and do it, but sometimes it takes a while. You get some that you work one way and then work in another way, and so it's different. I mean, as I say, any of designing, I mean, some of it is quick and an immediate reaction and know it's the right decision, and sometimes you have to know how to do it better.
There's always a next time.
Yeah.
You never stop.
No.
But, and also, I mean, I know you said you didn't have too many early idols in terms of jewelry, but were there any you want to share with our viewers?
Well, I've seen, I don't know which era. I mean, in the beginning, I was interested in sculpture and design and all kinds of things.
Right.
Like lamps and furniture and fabric and everything.
Yeah.
But I did know of Margaret DePata. And then, of course, Calder I knew of for all kinds of reasons. I mean, his sculpture and his playfulness and the charm.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned Pretoria, I think, someplace.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked old jewelry, too. I like some of the Egyptian things, and I like some of the Indian, Irish work in steel.
Oh.
I mean, all that is, it all, almost in all cultures, you find a form that you really think is wonderful.
Yeah, and you got a lot of that inspiration from the Walters Art Museum?
From all museums.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's all around us, but not everybody chooses to.
No, it just develops. It's your taste. You go through and you pick out this and that. Some people like my jewelry. I mean, not everybody's gonna like this kind of jewelry. It's a specific look that appeals to specific people. Thank heavens. I mean, thank heavens there's that much variety around. I mean, art jewelry is amazing. The scope of it, of what young creative people and old creative people come up with. And,
I also I love the fact that your work doesn't really seem to be dated in any particular way. I mean, the pieces you made in the 50s and the pieces you made, in 2011, like the opal on the right, they don't seem to be of a particular time and place.
exactly.
How is it? How it's a remarkable thing. How do you see them over time?
Well, I see them in different decades, sort of. Not decades. I mean, I can tell what shall I say? I know what I did in the 40s and 50s. I know the crystal ring we're talking about. I did way back, like in forgotten what's there, 80s, 70s. And I know I wanted to do a lot more of that, but I never seemed to get around to do as much as I wanted to. I don't know why, because I got caught up in other things.
Something else came
But
along.
it's always back in my mind that someday I'm going to really do a lot on that.
Yeah. Well, and you also had a lot of things going on. You were running the store with your husband, William Steinmetz, right? Also an artist. But you had a lot on your plate.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, see, that's in my mind, my imagination, but I just not getting to that right now. I've got a little more time.
I'm still hoping you're going to make a new piece for our opening.
And we'll see. Okay.
We'll see. Okay, she will. These are some of those pieces you've made for clients. This is a detail, obviously, that you often did for clients who had kind of a private memory to commemorate in a piece of jewelry with you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have entrusted you with these sort of coded designs.
Yeah. I've forgotten what anniversary this was for. I don't really have to know talking about it, but these are all based on different groups. The lines are different groups, and then there are a couple stones in there, I think.
There's one diamond.
Diamond, I mean, that has a certain meaning to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of custom things. I enjoy that. I often promote it because it can be a piece of jewelry, but if it has a second meaning to it, like the group that you'll probably come up with, that like it may be the 5th anniversary, so it might have 5th somethings in there that you wouldn't, I mean, not spelled in English, but fifth whatever.
Right.
5 stones, or the symbol 5, or the Roman initial 5, or whatever.
Exactly.
But something that they know about, I know about, you can see.
I love that kind of private language, and it does, I think it really binds you closely with some of your clientele. Yeah. They know, they can entrust you with that, and you'll produce something unique for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
So here, these are wonderful branching kinds of pieces, but they're also made with this tubular, these tubular elements that you came upon in the, I guess it was the 70s or 80s.
I don't know, 80s maybe, 70s. Yeah, it's tubes. It's just silver tubes, gold tubes. Mm-hmm. And I like the way they reflect light, and we cut them in different proportions so they give a interesting light pattern when they're worn. Do a lot of chains.
Yes.
And some of them are not chains, like the one on the right, it would be, or not chains, actually pieces of tubing put together.
Right. Some are more flexible than others. Some you can wrap around. What are you wearing one of them right now?
Yes, I'm wearing this one that actually, well, I don't know how far down you see, actually doubles over, so you get
right there. It is.
Like
you see it.
If you could see it,
Uh-huh.
And it moves. It catches light, and
yeah, and it's kind of like, if it's so flexible, it's really like wearing a piece of clothing.
Right, a lot of them are flexible like that. I have another one here. This is another kind of thing. Speaking of angles, I think I got myself a chain. Oh, I'm real smart. I didn't do it right. Anyhow, this hangs down the front.
Right.
So it's like something that goes right down the front and then sprays out to the side.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, you've got these rectangular elements you've soldered to the side.
And we do it with circles and squares.
Right.
All kinds. Okay. These are more chains. Here's another one.
Oh yeah, bigger discs. Oh, look at that.
Yes,
that's great.
And then somebody else might want it long and
yeah.
Different.
Well, anybody who's lucky to visit your store has a a wide range of these tubular necklaces to choose from.
Mhm. Yep.
And we paired these necklaces with this beautiful painting by Corot, because it was one that you had mentioned admiring when you were a young student or a child, I don't remember. And there is this constant reference to nature in your work.
Definitely. It's important to me. I mean, I do love almost every plant form, animal form, water form, rock form, cloud forms. I mean, it's all full of mystery because it's formations.
Right.
Like we were talking about clouds the other day, and you can talk about seeing things in clouds as a kid. There's a dinosaur, whatever. Then you run to tell somebody, look, there's a dinosaur, and then it's not it's a sheep now, and then it changes into different animals every time you come back and see it.
Yeah. Always something to learn and see.
Can you do that? Mm-hmm. That's okay.
And then here's your petal necklace. On the left, it's in different kinds of gold, right? White, red, and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love this photograph from the 70s that shows you that your works are often very versatile. So here's a petal necklace, similar in design, but instead of wearing it around the neck, you're hanging it from a neck piece.
Yeah.
And it's a smart way to design, because it means that pieces have more than one ways that they can be used.
Yes. Very different when it's hung down vertical. Very different. And it could be diagonal too, if they were to, right? A lot of these chains can cross over the shoulder,
Uh-huh.
Under the arm.
I
Well,
know
customers have an important part in it. They know what to do.
a lot of your clients come to you for that kind of fashion advice. You tell them how to dress, don't you?
Well, I hint. I don't really suggest is the word. Because different clothing requires a different piece, possibly.
Yes. And because your work is very, very, very contemporary, it really looks best on a very free-flowing kind of clothing.
Mm-hmm. It does. And it looks good on different people. They're just like clothes fit certain people, so does jewelry. You don't have a robust, huge person. It's kind of interesting what jewelry they would pick, or you can almost see what they're going to pick. You can tell after a while. But that's off the subject. Or is it? Well, when you design a piece for somebody, it's important to know what she looks like and how she's going to wear it, if it's formal or if it's something she just wants to toss on every day.
Yeah. Yeah, these pieces are a little more formal here. These are those pieces we were alluding to before, where you're creating objects of great beauty that also commemorate an anniversary or a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Like the piece on the upper left is the number 65. If you're looking carefully, there's the number 65 for someone's 65th anniversary.
Mm-hmm. And there's 5 5s and 6 6s in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a piece of emerald.
Would you tell us a little bit about the Rouses, Jim Rouse, and your relationship with him at the
Right.
Village of Cross Keys?
Jim Rouse was a very wonderful developer and a wonderful person. And he really thought about human beings and how they should live and want to live. So he developed, first he did a few shopping centers, very small ones. This is back in the 60s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then he built where we are, which is Cross Keys, and it's a wonderful architectural center. And it was the prototype for the city of Columbia in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Columbia was 5 villages, and this Cross Key is one village. And the theory is, of course, that the one village supplies all the food and essentials that people need so they can walk and have the schools and everything available. And so Cross Keys is still, I mean, Columbia is still there and has grown, and it opened in the 60s, I think.
Yes.
Or 70, and it was interracial, and money had a big thing to do with it. All wealth, different, incomes would be in the same neighborhood. It was
Yeah. Very, very progressive thinking.
what we know now and do now and try to do now. And so anyhow, well, he was married, and for his first anniversary one day he said, "Would you make me something for my first anniversary?" I said, "Sure." And I made him a little one, a silver with a little gold syrup on it. And then there was a second anniversary, and then there was the birthday, and it went on for 20 years. I did 40 pieces for him, and all of them were symbolic of either the anniversary or her age in some way. And it was interesting because he being a creative person, he was very creative. He didn't tell me what to do, but I'd say, "Does she want a necklace?" And he said, I think a big necklace is not something big and strong." Okay, so we exchanged drawing. I sent him all kind of drawings. And it became an important thing for them and for her, and for other customers too, because some of them say, "Oh, I have a 50th anniversary now. What are you going to do for me?" What I did, Morse code, I remember, was the chain with gold tubes with pearls, and I wrote a dot, dash, 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 dot, dot, "I love you," or whatever it was. It was
Morse code.
Morse code, and nobody ever forgot what it said, but anyhow, it was in there. And so that's working with people, which is interesting.
And you've had clients that are multi-generational. That just astonishes me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. I'm on the third generation. They all come. It's wonderful.
They still have to start out as young women get started out with a Betty brooch or a Betty necklace.
Yeah, this span
starter set.
30 years, 20 years. So anyhow.
Wow. All right, let's continue. This is the last page. And so we've come full circle. This is a whole complete portrait view of that great necklace on the cover of the catalog. And I think it's really, it's one of your masterpieces because it has that great sense of movement. There's a little serendipity. You don't really repeat yourself. And yet it's almost like there are bars of a piece of music, with this what's the word? Kind of improvisational approach to the design.
Jazz.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
It's all, there is irregularity in there. Nothing is too symmetrical. Like the length of the bars and I think that's a good piece too.
Yeah.
And it goes on a stunning person. So that's nice.
That's even better. So, I know you've been asked this before, but there are a lot of young jewelers who will be watching this and they will want to know, what are the keys to your success? What would, if you were to sit down young aspiring jewelers today, what would you suggest to them as they go forward?
The first decision is they would decide to be a jeweler. So that course could be any material. They could work in beads, they could work in anything, thread, they could work in metal. And I think that's a matter of, again, choice, or you may not know, you may start in one and add them all together. But what I say, first it has to be something you love to do. And you have to pick a material you love to do and have to learn how to use it. And so it makes sense with what you're working on. And then I think, you sort of think how you want to work. Do you want to work by yourself in a studio or hide away in the woods someplace and make all these wonderful things? Or do you want to work with people? And can you work with people? Do you want to have people helping you and contributing? Or would you rather do it all yourself? I think that's real important. I never had to decide. It just happened, or I let it happen,
Yeah.
that I like people, because I was faced with thinking, how many earrings am I going to have to make in my life? And I went into not production, but multiple things, because I wanted to share a design with,
Yeah.
if you'd done one of each, I mean, I enjoyed seeing people in it,
Yeah.
and
Like a little
the
bit
people
of
being
ambition.
happy in it. So I enjoyed the customers also.
Mm.
Whereas you may not enjoy customers. You can make everything you like and want to make and send it to galleries, which is wonderful. There are quite a few people that you don't see at all. They just produce these magnificent studio pieces that are for galleries only, or for customers only. So there are all those things that you don't have to decide on as you start, because you'll find out yourself after a while. But you certainly have to love the material and have a good time playing with design.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to come up with.
Yeah.
Maybe you do. Maybe you have a clear line, but you might pick up a piece of metal and it'll do something to you. Oh, I'm going to use it this way or that way. And the other thing, you collect all these scraps, which are not scraps. I mean, any little piece of metal is a byproduct of another job, becomes
Right.
something else, maybe,
Yes.
becomes something you hadn't thought of. So I guess you have to be open to all kinds of ideas that come out of your head. And of course, you need space, and you need a few people to get, or maybe you have a few people already that appreciate your work. But it just took a few people for me to get really caught on it. They liked what I did, and it was a pleasure. So I did more and more and more, and I did things not specifically for people, but I mean, not a type. It would just be something I liked, and fortunately, other people like it.
Yes.
It's your song you sing. I think that's the way you can say, and
Mm.
it comes out your way. I would suggest never putting anything out that you don't like, especially in metal, because it'll come back to you. I've had people bring things back that fortunately I like, but things I've done maybe 50, 60 years ago. And I thought, oh, well, I remember that. That's kind of neat. I wonder, I never did another one, but I like that. But if it's, I don't think I ever did anything I don't like, or I never sold it anyhow. I would smash it. But
Yeah. So being true to yourself is really important.
in metal, you can't exactly go too far with something that isn't working right. I mean, you're working with a metal that's, you can recycle it, but you spend a lot of time. You want to make sure with your design and your plan that it's going to work, or you end up with all these things that aren't. Now, don't ask me how you know what's going to work. That's just that's in your genes. That's in your talent. And then you become proud of what you do, and you keep doing it. But you have to be proud of it, and find people that will associate with it. That doesn't
Yes.
tell you too much. I'm not talking about money or anything.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think you found your groove and your group early on, and they've all stayed with you to the present.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Betty.
You're welcome. And I'm enjoyed. I hope I've inspired somebody, or at least encouraged them to keep going forward.
Keep going.
Because now with digital, oh my, now it's so different. So many more opportunities, with the digital printing and all kinds of things. You may end up with a big factory in 2 minutes before you know what's going on. Okay,
I'll stick with your work.
but stick with the design, no matter. And you can tell when somebody has it all together. If you see a collection of pieces, when you're starting out too, you need a good collection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So it shows the consistency, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you feel comfortable that these are, if I do 6 pieces and I really think 4 are the best, show all 6 and see how many get other people's ideas. Maybe everybody will pick the 4. And then you have
That's
to,
great advice. Great advice. Well,
don't be ashamed of anything. Okay.
it's been such a pleasure. Betty, we haven't been together in person for quite a long time because of the pandemic, but I am looking forward to seeing you hopefully in the spring. And in the meantime, thanks so much for
Oh, yes.
sharing all of this with us and the Society of Arts and Crafts.